and soon he took over the national side, where Toohey had left off.
Giles had been an integral part of the Irish international scene since 1959, still playing and still playing well. He was a guy who commanded respect.
A foundation has been laid in terms of organisation, in terms of games being played in midweek, and then he was now in a position as manager to impose further improvements.
I hardly ever saw the FEI boys. I had no interference from them at all. They allowed me to do what I wanted to do. I could pick the squad, I could pick the team, the hotel arrangements were okay. Everything was basic, but that's all I needed.
There was a change of mindset by the fellas in England who knew there was something new afoot and wanted to be a part of it.
So we thought, well, we get all the English players a training session for 3 or 4 days prior to playing a competitive European Championship game.
He started to establish some ground rules, but also to give the players some more confidence and say, look, I believe we can win some games and compete with some of the best teams in Europe in the qualification. And that they did during his tenure.
It wasn't long before Giles' new regime faced a very stern challenge as the mighty Soviet Union arrived here at Dalymount Park in 1974 for a European Championship qualifier.
The most unusual thing about Dalymount Park that particular day was the fact that we went out for a warm-up at approximately 2:10 and the ground was nearly full. I remember walking back in with Ray Tracy and I said to Ray, you know, Ray, I think there's something special is going to happen here today.
We all knew each other pretty well. It was like playing the club team, really.
And we had no fear going out. He told us that if we played a certain way, we would have every chance of having success.
This is Liam Brady, his first touch in senior international football.
Liam Brady was making his debut.
And although it was his debut, Brady was astonishingly good on the day. But the man of the hour was Don Givens.
Giles.
The first one was a crossfield ball from Giles to Joe Kinnear, who took it forward and then hit it in quite early. And I came running in and headed it down the bottom corner.
Givens is coming in. Oh, it's a beautiful goal, isn't it? A beautiful goal.
The second one, Steve threw it into the mix and it sort of bubbled around and I poked it in.
Tracy, hooked in by Don Givens. And suddenly, in the space of 30 minutes, Irish soccer has been reawakened.
And then the third one was something that we'd worked on a little bit in training.
Giles has got Givens and Tracy to aim at.
Giles, he got on the ball. He just popped it on my head and I glanced it in for number 3.
Givens' head.
So I can remember him all right. Yeah.
To beat them so convincingly was quite incredible. In front of probably the biggest crowd that's ever been in Dalymount Park. And, you know, a great memory for me.
The crowd, I can still picture them. It was wonderful to see that reaction from the supporters would nearly bring tears to your eyes. And that's how much it meant that day. But it meant just as much for the players as well. Be under no illusion about that.
It's now over. It's all over at Dalymount Park.
We were back in the Central Hotel for about 6 o'clock. And we had one of the best sing-songs you've ever seen in your life.
Years later, Don told me an extraordinary story which says something about that era and in contrast to today. He had to get back to London very quickly after the game, I think along with their own hand. But the crowd was so huge around Dalymount Park after the match that the team bus got basically stuck in gridlock in Finsborough. And the boys were in a rush to get to the airport, so nothing else to do but get out and hitch. It's amazing, really, when I think of... You couldn't really imagine Robbie and Damien Duff doing that today, could you? But anyway, so then we went, and this fella stopped. And now, 2 of us walking in tracksuits, and I've got the match ball under my arm. And he rolls the window down, and he says, "Have you been to the match, lads?" So he drops them at the hotel, but they're still running late. Straight after the game, you didn't have a shower or anything. You're going to shower back in the hotel. But they're now running so late, they can't even have a shower in the hotel. They just time to pack their bags, jump in a taxi and race to the airport. They just make the flight to Heathrow. The plane lands at Heathrow, by which time the news of this Irish win and the fact that Don Givens had scored a hat-trick had become headline news, you know, in England and across Europe. There was like 40 or 50 photographers there. You know, the news had broken while we were doing all this. And I've got the mud is all caked on my legs, you know. And on the plane, it's kind of dried. And these fellas are snapping like mad. And I'm thinking, you've no idea. No one any the wiser that underneath his tracksuit, he was covered from head to toe in authentic Dahlia muck. It was such a big result, not only for us, but in the football world, it was a massive result. We kind of knew that. But we'd become a little bit more professional with Johnny Giles anyway.
Although Giles brought a new professionalism to the setup and achieved some famous results, more of the old bad luck followed.
My first campaign was the European campaign in '74. We got off to a great start, but we went away to Russia and lost, and we went away to Switzerland and lost, and that kind of put paid to our chances.
Ireland fell victim to some strange refereeing decisions in a qualifier for the 1978 World Cup against France in Paris. Sound familiar?
We were actually hard done by in that group by some really strange decisions in Paris that has gone on and on and on.
You remember going into the dressing room at half-time, we're well in control of this game. Absolutely no danger. But as luck would have it, or luck would not have it, we went a goal down.
1-0.
And then went on the attack.
Great chance. Yes.
Frank Sable hit it in the back of the net, and they gave offside. They gave offside against Jerry Daly, who was wide on the right, who couldn't possibly have been interfering with play. I was never more upset and disappointed after a game, because we were actually robbed. But when you're a minnow in those days in international football, you don't get the breaks.
Had we got a draw in Paris that night, I think we would have gone on to qualify.
Played them in the return leg in Lansdowne. We beat them 1-0 with a great Liam Brady goal.
Now it's Brady. Oh, beautifully played. He's in. Yes, Liam Brady.
And we played really, really well.
Ireland have won it.
We still had a chance of qualifying, and we said, right, we won't let this slip. We're out in Bulgaria, and we were robbed left, right, and centre.
Everybody got robbed in Bulgaria, and we got robbed.
Oh, he turned them beautifully twice. Crossed to Jerry Daly. He's dropped it to Giles. Giles has scored. But the flag is up. It's no goal. It is no goal.
We had a perfectly good goal disallowed by John Giles, and they got two awful, horrendous goals. I was devastated. I thought Paris in '76 was bad, but this was the very worst, because we had really high hopes of qualifying for Argentina.
In 1977, 56 years after football partition, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland were drawn in the same group for the 1980 Euro qualifiers. The first ever match between the two Irelands was played at Lansdowne Road in September 1978. Football's tendency to reflect divisions on the island had not gone away. When the Republic drew 0-0 with Northern Ireland at Lansdowne Road and lost the return match 1-0, they again failed to qualify. The results weren't good enough, and the writing was on the wall.
Giles didn't sadly achieve the success he might have, and then he resigned early in 1980 after a particularly bad match in Cyprus. Cyprus were the whipping boys of Europe at that stage, and we succeeded in winning only 3-2.
There was an air of expectancy. You see, after that, you say, well, Giles has had 3 goals and qualified, he hasn't qualified yet, you know, so that I wasn't the most popular with the crowd or the media in those days, you know. But that's the way it goes.